This year, a new chapter begins. Peter Otto redefines the classic. A new name, a new season, for a new story. Season starts now.
Well, it's a very, very warm welcome in every sense of the words to Spa-Francorchamps for the second event of the Le Mans Classic Series by Peter Otto. It is the Spa Classic, and I'm delighted to say that we have a full weekend and a full set of grids for you. Alongside me, John Hindolf, in the Global Broadcast Centre is Bruce Jones. We will be heading off decanting to our spiffy new set after this race and bringing you some interviews as well. Bruce, looking forward to that, but I have to say, a cornucopia of delights in all of the paddocks here at Spa-Francorchamps.
Yeah, the series multiple just grow and grow, and mysteriously, if you have a meeting on the full Grand Prix circuit at Spa-Francorchamps, it's going to attract everyone to it. And the number of people who've increased in all of the fields from the opening round of the championship in Barcelona just a short while ago, it's incredible. Plus, we have the GT3 Revival Series, 44 cars entered in that. So it's going to be really hot work, and a lot of drivers in this, they can't decide which of their children they like the most, so they race in various categories, and they do have to move around this giant paddock to get from car A to car B, from the top pits, the Grand Prix pits, down to the bottom pit, some under awnings, and the temperature is sky high. I am one of only 4 people, along with you, John, wearing trousers today at Spa-Francorchamps. For Vincent Francin in the pit lane, he's got a hot environment to be in, so we're throwing down to him soon for his welcome. But just sit back and enjoy, and the racing will go on all the way through until, well, quite late after 11 o'clock tonight. About 11:20 we ought to finish, and then we start again fresh, we hope, at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, go all the way through until just coming up to 6 o'clock on Sunday. It's a holiday weekend in every sense of the word.
And if you want to join the conversation, you can at RSL_studio on X if you want to get through to our studio. The temperature set to be in the mid to high 20s Celsius today, getting even warmer across the weekend. An absolute scorcher when we're heading home on Monday. It is Whit Monday, of course, which is the holiday weekend that Bruce is talking about. We'll kick off our first event for the Endurance Racing Classics, and it is our first race of the weekend. You've missed no racing joining us here this early afternoon on Saturday. 33 cars in a grid that is dedicated to GTs and prototypes from, well, around about the middle of the 1970s up to the 1980s. One of the real golden ages for GT cars, and Porsche 935s, BMW M1s, there's a BB 512, Ferrari as well.
Stop it now, John.
You have to remember, this is just our first grid. We've got the historic touring cars out on the circuit at the moment, which is just coming to the end of their qualifying session. That's Ford Capris and CSLs, etc. So if you can hear cars in the background, that is what you're listening to at the moment. And Be Still My Beating Heart with all those Cologne Capris and CSLs, and we all had those as Scalextric cars and models down through the years. Big crowd already coming in this weekend, this holiday weekend, and it was very busy down there. However, the pit lane is a little quieter. The Formula One pit lane is where we find our third voice, Vincent. Good afternoon and bonjour, and it is a very bonjour. The sun is shining, a beautiful spring day here in Belgium.
Hello Bruce, hello John, so happy to be with you here in Spa-Francorchamps, the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. In my region this time, as you said, the pit lane is quite empty now, but it won't last very long before the cars of the Endurance Racing Legends 2 comes on the pits, in the pits, and then on the grid, and that will be the start of the race number 1. We'll be during the whole weekend here in the pit lane. We'll make some interviews, many interviews about what happened in the race, of course, but also about the story of some cars, because as you know, with Peter Rotto we have prestigious racing cars here on this wonderful circuit on Spa-Francorchamps. And look at this, it's sunny. It will be sunny today and tomorrow and for the next week, so it's quite unusual here in the Belgian Ardennes, but we are ready for it.
Thank you very much, Vincent. Do go into the garage and have a beer and an ice cream.
Yeah, and some frites as well. Obviously, we might as well tick off all of the Belgian cuisine that this area is so well known for. I'm seeing that this is typical Spa weather this year. I was here 2 weeks ago for the World Endurance Championship, and this is the identical conditions that we had for the Spa 6 Hours Friday and Saturday. A little bit colder when we went down to the Eiffel from the Ardennes last weekend for the Nürburgring 24. And when I say a little bit colder, I mean really, really cold.
Just above freezing, John.
Yes, indeed. And I was rather worried that some of that colder weather might have caught on and come back here this weekend, but I need not have done. A real festival atmosphere here with plenty of outlets, with merchandise. There's a model shop that Bruce has just been steering me away from in the paddock, because even with limited amount of luggage capability, he knows that I will be drawn into spending money. What I love about these events, Bruce, and you know, you and I have done a lot of these together. You were at Barcelona, the opener, earlier on this year, but what I love about this, there is a real festival atmosphere. It's a bit like the circus coming to town, and I mean that in the best way, because we see a lot of the same faces. There are a lot of very large business opportunities now, and people who are coming with big trailers and multiple cars, not just 2 or 3 or 4, but into double figures, as we're just getting the checkered flag now on the end of the historic touring car 1. And it's BMW from 2 Ford Capris and 2 BMWs and another Capri for your top 6 as they come across the line now, with the lovely little GTA Alphas in that class as well. But this is a part of motorsport and a part of the motorsport area that has blossomed in the last, decade or so?
Yeah, it has. I mean, Peter Auto Classic has been rebranded this year as Le Mans Classic, and it's bringing in many, many more elements, and this is always such a popular circuit. So we don't just have the cars, we have incredible assemblies of car clubs, massive ranks of TVRs. There's an entire Shelby arena with the original Shelby Transporter, the Shelby Pickup, the Shelby Station Wagon, and a host of Shelby 289s. There are Ford GT40 areas, there are BMW. We were lusting after some incredible...
Belgian BMW Club have done an absolutely quality job right at the exit of the Formula One pit lane. Yeah,
no, it's sensational, and it really is a good, I'd say it's a couple of days out, because it'd be very rude to come here and not go and watch trackside. I'm not just talking about Eau Rouge and Raidillon, which we know is epic, but a lot of people need to go to the far end of the circuit and get the sweep down Bruxelles and watch high on the hill up at Les Combes. To me, this is just, I love this circuit, rain or shine. I tell you what, I will take the sunshine today, though. It's fantastic. But the array of cars is just exquisite, and there are people from all around the world competing here. And in fact, one of the first studio guests I'll have is a person who's come up from New Zealand to do 2 months of racing.
Why wouldn't you?
And then he'll go back to his business life. But it's time out, and time out very, very well spent. But yes, hugely international. Looking down behind the endurance pits, as we call them, come down the slope, you can see some of the car clubs. In behind, there's an area of about 30 different retail outlets. There are bars and friteries. Also, the construction work of the new tower. You can see some mighty tall cranes in the background. Not working this weekend, obviously, but, you know, Spa is being remodeled. It has continued to be remodeled ever since it started, frankly.
Yeah, it's... well, the Guardia Familia has now finally been finished after 400 and odd years in Barcelona. Maybe Spa is still the biggest engineering and construction and design work in the world that is still ongoing and still improving. 33 cars, as I mentioned, Bruce. Of course, we've got the Astons and the Ferraris and in ERL2. But we have got a Mosler in there, just a single Mosler. It's one we've seen before, the black MT900, but it just adds to the variety that we're getting out there on the circuit. And the majority of these guys are working from the F1 pits as well.
Yeah, they are. I mean, if you take a very quick scan, you'll notice there are a couple of Aston Martins in the field. It's almost all otherwise. Ferrari F430s against Porsche 993 GT2s. There's also, what else have we got down there that's different? There's one Chevrolet Corvette run by John Emberson. He has a very good crack in that. But this is a time when, well, eternally in sports car racing, it has a time when it's retrenching, rebalancing and coming forward. And this brought an awful lot of privateers back into top-line sports car racing, which is something that needs to be refreshed about once every 10 years.
The sort of sister car to the Mosler, because it is the twin Busch entry, is the Toyota Supra GT2, the 2004 car, which is the mainly white car with red and blue on it. Those guys are running together, the two Bushes, and nice to see them, as I say, bringing something different. A variety of Porsches. In this era, we're in the 996 era. For those of you Porsche files, that's the one with the sort of fried egg headlights that divided opinion massively. And of course, the 996 as a street car was the first non-air and oil-cooled 996. So this is the beginning of the water-cooled era. A huge step for Porsche with the car that's been around since 1962. And of course, there were people within the Porsche fraternity who said, well, that's it. That's the last. The 993 is the last proper Porsche. And they're still saying that now. At every different iteration, we've just gone on to the number 9, the type number 992.2, and it's got a hybrid, it's got a partial hybrid on it. And oh, that's the end of the traditional Porsche as well. But it is extraordinary that car, that shape, that basic shape, has endured for well over 60 years. And if you showed a line drawing of a Porsche from any of those 60-odd years to even people who were barely mildly interested in cars, Bruce, they would recognise that as a Porsche straight away.
Oh, just 100%. And it is such... There isn't a stronger bloodline in the world automotive industry. I still have a penchant for the very early ones, but I know you love pretty much everything in between. I just like the purity, etc., etc. But of course, the performance went through the roof as it advanced through the decades. And for a lot of people, they still talk about the 1973 Carrera RS as the very zenith of it all. And then it was really after that they became larger. But you know, strip away what you had on the road, which is quite hard. And you have what's happened on the track. I mean, Porsche, they're still sitting on 19 wins at Le Mans, but they started small, started winning their class in the early 60s, and then people began to sit up and take notice. But then, let's face it, this race is largely Ferrari against Porsche, and Ferrari ever strong in the GT field, and so popular for a lot of people. I love the fact we've got cars brought in from all around the world. Love seeing that Taisan livery we saw a short while ago over from Japan, and the Japanese have always been very into their Porsches as well. But it's not just Porsches, it's Ferraris, as you mentioned, a Mosler, a few Aston Martins, a Toyota Supra, and John Emberson's Chevrolet Corvette. But for the 996s, they're pretty effective. But at the moment, 4 of the top 5 cars are Ferrari F430s. Yeah, slightly younger, 2010.
They seem to have been really popular. They were popular at the time, And again, this was a big step forward, the 430 GTC and the Evos particularly that came in 2008-ish, I think, if I remember rightly. And you and I commentated on pretty much, in fact, all of these cars in periods. Aston Martins, you mentioned, we have two different Vantages actually, because we've got the V8 Vantage, the number 92 car is out there as a V8, but in the Invitational class we have got a V12, haven't we? Yes, we have. The number 16 that we'll see, so two versions of the British Challenger as it was in the mid to late 2000s. And of course we're looking at some of these cars, the GTCs and the GT3s, an addition to the Le Mans Classic Series, and indeed to Classic Le Mans this year, is a GT3 category, a fully homologated GT3 category, and we'll see those at Classic Le Mans this year. That takes cars that potentially could be up to 2013 actually with the Evos, and actually possibly a little bit beyond that as well. And this is the first time in Classic Le Mans history that newer cars have been let in. And again, a bit like the Porsche question, there will be people saying, oh, the sky is falling in. It's 25 years, Bruce, since we first had Classic Le Mans, and adding a few years in to the end of it, all you're doing is saying to people for whom some of these cars, and even a little bit later, were their introduction to endurance racing, is saying, here are your hero cars, come to Le Mans and watch them again.
Yeah, no, it really, really works. And I mean, we all have our favoured periods of motor racing. I'm very hard to pin mine down. I'm a bit like a gadfly leaping from side to side because I just walk through a paddock. My head is so easily turned. But for a lot of people, these were the cars they wanted at the time. They couldn't afford it at the time. They were too poor, too married, too anything along those lines. And now they have them. But it's just fantastic. Cars should not be kept in museums unless they're regularly brought out on the circuit.
Totally agree.
And a lot of people have spent years building up their collection. There's that black and yellow Moser, something a little bit different. And now, it's not just people getting the cars on the track. The historic motor racing industry is phenomenal. And I advise anybody who wants to get into motor racing, if they want to do an engineering side, go and work with one of the historic teams. You'll get variety, you get some really cool circuits to come to, and you can be very, very busy indeed.
Already you are telling us that you are settling in for the afternoon. A warm and sunny Buckinghamshire is where Thomas Pitts is watching from. He said, I was at the WEC weeks ago, and some of our group were asking, would we do it the Belgian trip again? And the answer from me was yes, but maybe for the Spa Classic instead. So Thomas watching as a bit of an appetizer potentially, planning for next year. Well, I'd heartily recommend it.
Oh, I would. And the number of gangs of friends coming around here. You can go to the top of the Grand Prix pit building. There's an amazing rooftop restaurant. You can be undercover in the shade looking down, or in this bright sunshine. Oh, I wept when I saw people walking past me, cool glasses of beer, but I had to head back to work. But just such brilliant vantage points here. And when we were here 12 months ago, we had driving rain into the night, and we are going into the night again to give people not just a daytime racing experience. Of course, lots of the cars in various categories across all of these Le Mans Classic weekends would have raced at Le Mans, would have raced in the night. Some, of course, would have raced in the Spa 24 Hours. We'll get to those again later. So they'll get that slice of the action through to about 11:15 ce soir.
There is a 993 GT2 Evo as well. That's Tim Pappas and Jerome Blakemore and the Black Swan away kit, if you will, which is the white car with the green stripes. That's the 540. So that's a bit of an earlier car. That goes back to before the turn of the century, actually. It's 1999. And did the Marcos get out as well? Because I did see...
That's in a different field. That's not in this field.
Oh, okay.
I think that's in ERL1, if I'm correct. Yes, I am. It's actually the... LMPs and GT1s. So there's Vincent. He's waiting down on the grid, but the cars haven't reached him yet. But we will be getting some interviews from the grid, so we'll give Vincent a chance just to warm up a little bit. But the cars going around the track, there'll be no problem whatsoever getting heat in the tyres. The wise spectators are taking vantage points that are in the shade. Certainly worthwhile. But look at these conditions. This is May, remind yourself. It feels like high summer here in the Ardennes. Everyone just having a fantastic time. And this is the first of the racing meetings of Spa Classic for 2026. I'm super excited.
One of the first things you learn at school in the UK in your French is Il était un beau jour en printemps, and it is absolutely le soleil a brillé. Vincent is down on the grid, awaiting the arrival of the cars, and I think he's got a victim as well. Let's head back to the sunshine.
Yes, guys, on the grid with this guy, Mr. Nick Padmore. He's one of the real quick guys on the track and during this weekend. Nick, it's the start of the weekend races, of course, and it's a good start. We are on the front row. Everything okay with the Aston Martin?
Yeah, it's great. It's such a great car to drive, and the noise, you just want to keep changing gear, really. It's brilliant around here. I'm in 5 cars this weekend, so it's quite busy, but thanks to Ashton, who invited me to drive this weekend. It's great.
Is it easy to switch from one car to another during the whole weekend?
It depends how they are lined up. So I'm in a T70 coupe in about 2 hours after this. So obviously manual box, and it moves around, and it's not, but you just have to get on with it. You can't hang around and, I must take my time to get used to it. So it's a great variety of cars, and I'm very grateful for, the people who invited me to drive them.
Thank you very much. This guy is a former Formula One historic champion, and he will be one to watch during the whole weekend. Thanks, Nick.
Cheers.
Well, he certainly will. I mean, Nick has that advantage of understanding historic cars very well, but it is that ability to jump from one sort of car to another and deal with different teammates. A lot of them, of course, they're instructing at the same time, advising, shaping. Yeah, the thing that makes it hardest for them, John, is just according to when one category is relative to another. Sometimes they have to literally get out of one and go from the collection area to the assembly area for the next race. And actually here at Spa-Francorchamps, there's a very large distance between the lower pits, the endurance pits, and the top of the circuit. And depends when the cars get put on the track. The GT3s are on the other side of the track in the exit of the end of the rallycross stadium there, so they can feed straight onto the track at Eau Rouge. So logistics are really something, and it is a case of hurry, quick. But here are the cars that would have raced at Le Mans, would have raced in the Le Mans series and other elements as they went through the early parts of the 21st century. And again, look at the names on the door. Pierre Eret, Romain Roussoff, Leo Mansell. Remember, Nigel's boys came along and spent about 2 years trying to race. Nigel joined them at Le Mans. That didn't go so well, did it? He ended up concussing himself. But again, you just suddenly go back 20 odd years and you forget the names nearly. Most of these cars are there's some very early 993 GT2 Evos, Remy Terrai, his is 1999. A few GT3 RSs from 2001, but I think the latest car in this field is about 2010. Yeah, some of those, in fact, the car's fittingly right at the sharp end of the grid. The F430 GTC Evo Ferraris, there are 4 of those in the top 5 positions. Philip Kadori on pole, James Thorpe in holding the flag for Aston Martin will be starting second. Then David Hart, Kyle Tilley, Charles Cardina. And then the Mosler went really well. The black and yellow Mosler in the hands of Dennis Bush, one of the 2 twins, he and brother Mark, but he's got the bragging rights in this one. He gets the big, loud Mosler. You know what? The sound of a racing engine is so vital to me. And when I heard all these Porsches and Ferraris going out, I was going, yeah, great. Then there was a different sound, and I couldn't work out what it was. And then it dawned on me, I'd forgotten the Moser was in this field. Again, so hopefully we'll pick up the sound through the mics on the cameras, and you'll get the amazing array of engine notes. And, of course, in every single one of the races this weekend, we have a huge display of performance and noise and speed, and it's all part of the rich mix. But right now, we're getting set. This is the first of the races here at Spa-Francorchamps for the Spa Classic for 2026. been fantastic days of testing and practice and qualifying for all the categories, but here's the first of the races, and I would say we're absolutely all set. And this is a 40-minute race. Endurance Racing Legends 2, which is for GT2 class cars, and Endurance Racing Legends 1 is for LMPs and GT1s, the more powerful GTs. We'll get to that at another point on the programme.
Who were the fast people at Barcelona?
Yeah, the very much. Well, I just remember a cameo role from John Emberson in his Chevrolet Corvette. Qualifying in Barcelona was rather jiggled. I'm fairly sure the weather interrupted it. But here, looking at the names you expect at the top, like Philip Kaddouri, the property magnate from Hong Kong, who's just got. He's always been fast, but he's absolutely refined his craft in recent years. He's starting in the Team Modena 430 Ferrari from pole position. Car number 48, look out for that one, and he's always one to watch, and he nearly came away with 2 top results from Barcelona. But it does feel as though this race meeting is on another planet, because this is a very, very different circuit. So feast your eyes as the Endurance Racing Legends 2 field goes for another sighter lap with the Dunlop liveried Aston Martin trying to sort of split the pack, and the ex-Krone Racing Ferrari in that lime green and blue.
Well, there was just a few weeks ago, last weekend in fact, Nick Johnson and Tracy Krohn still together, still racing in 24-hour races.
29 years in, I think, was the figure.
Incredible number. They are knocking on the door of their... I think they've done nearly 40 24... In fact, over 40 24-hour races. They're knocking on the door of 50 now together as a team. Has to be... I mean... It has to be one of the most enduring. We talk about the great endurance teams for, you know, people like Dindo Capello and Alan McNeish and Tom Christensen racing together over a period of 5 or 6 years. And here's these guys who've been racing literally some people's lifetime together.
Quite extraordinary. So there it is. It's bright green and with a blue stripe up the middle. Charlie Scardina at the wheel of that. And then Dennis Bush tucked in behind that mean-looking black and yellow Momo liveried Mosler. And then any colour scheme you want. The white and red Toyota, you mentioned, that's just gone out of shot. But in behind, Felbermeyer car. There's a livery that effectively is still out on track today in contemporary racing. Blue with the flashes.
Imsa Matmut car, the insurance company from around the Le Mans area. The south, and Le Mans is centre of the French insurance industry. And oh my goodness, this is all of our yesterdays. You talked about the championships here in Europe. Some of these cars came from IMSA as well, in the absolute glory days of Dr. Don Pano's and the American Le Mans series towards the end of the 1990s and into the early 2000s. We did not have, as we do now, an FIA World Championship for endurance racing. We didn't need it because we had so many good series, and the American Le Mans series brought them all together for some classic tracks that hadn't been seen at that level for a very, very long time. And then, of course, we were knocking on the door of GT3, and that sort of came along as an homologated global formula, thanks to Stefan Rattel, and we'll see some of those cars later on. And that really, at that point, the American Le Mans series kick-started the interest in endurance racing globally. And then in the national and regional series, GT3 and subsequently GT4 really took that on a step further and provided, Bruce, what sports car racing probably had never had, which was a recognised progression for drivers, teams and manufacturers to show their wares and be able to come up through GT4, GT3, GT2 and GT1, of course, and some of those did not last, and we understand about that. But that really, these were big turning point days, end of the 90s into the early 2000s.
Yeah, they really were. These cars were the springboard for what followed. And just for example, GT3 is now a historic formula. Seems extraordinary. Cars from 2006 to 2013. There are 11 different manufacturers represented in the GT3 Revival Series, and that alone is proof that the pudding was one that was deserved to be kept on. And having a global formula does mean things like the Asian Le Mans series can go from strength to strength and so on. And it brings up people. And what's their ultimate target? Almost to a driver, Le Mans. And some of those will now actually be appearing at Le Mans on the support programme. But here and now, it's the Endurance Racing Legends 2 to kick off the Le Mans Classic Series. Spa Classic, beautiful, beautiful weather conditions, fantastic field, 33 cars. If you'd said in about 2006 or so, oh, we'd probably gather more than 30 of these cars in 20 plus years time and we'll go racing at Spa-Francorchamps on a sunny day, you'd have gone, yada yada, absolutely not.
There'd have been some men with a padded van and popping around to see you. All right, get the 40 minutes on your watch. In the sunshine, beautiful, mid to late 20s Celsius. It's Spa, it's spring, and it's endurance racing. Rolling start, red lights are on, and as they go out, the 2026 edition of the Spa Classic, Le Mans Classic Series by Peter Auto is underway, and everybody behaving themselves as they go down to the... It's not as slow a corner as you think. That's probably a third gear corner in these cars, but already the Ferraris have come through. The outside of the front row was the Aston Martin. It dropped back just for a moment, and the two Ferraris head up the hill to Raidillon.
Yeah, but Philippe Cadore hasn't made pole pay because Carl Tilley started fourth, went to third past the Aston Martin, and around the outside at La Source. So it's the British-born American, licensed American Carl Tilley in the lead of the race, but Philippe Cadore tucked into his wake up to Les Combes. They go neat and tidy. The Aston Martin still in the mix there for James Thorpe. And a couple of other cars making progress. That great Spider-Man livery Aston Martin getting a little bit of a wobble on, breaking into Les Combes, but track conditions perfect already. Drivers without a cool suit, we go, oh, why don't I have a cool suit? It's a hot day here at Spa-Francorchamps.
Yeah, that the number 16 car, that's the Fatemi car. That is the V12 in the invitation class, diving downhill. Now, do we use the classic names this weekend?
Use what you want, John, I'll go with it.
Well, down towards Pouhon, which is always Pouhon to me, the double left, and you approach there, gathering pace much quicker than you really think you should do, even in a street car. If you're fortunate enough, and there's a few people here this weekend who are doing what's called the club laps. We saw some of them yesterday as well.
Well, who wouldn't want to get a lap or two on this fabled circuit? In fact, the Aston Martin that's near the front is James Thorpe's V8 Vantage, V12 Vantage for Tame. He's down in 11th. Oh, dear me.
Yeah, that is quite serious.
It's a Red Bull liveried Ferrari. Just trying to work out... again, I was about to say, when you were commenting about how wonderful Pouhon is, it's very much a corner of two parts. And the second part, if you run a little bit wide over the curbing on the outside, you'll whip around, and unfortunately barriers may be met. Yeah,
the Fatemi car is the 16 car, though. That's the car I was talking about, the one with the
further
red,
down, but
the
one that's challenging the Ferraris that started at the front.
That was the one on the outside the front row.
James Thorpe with the Dunlop livery, very, very close at the front, but it's Carl Tilley who leads the first yellow flag, no surprise there, down on the exit of Pouhon, but the gap between first and second, just half a second, and about a second or so, second and a half further back, 2 seconds back actually, is James Thorpe. Dennis Bush has moved the Mosler from 6th on the grid up to 4th. David Hart was a bit slow away from 3rd on the grid, but he's running in 5th place, just ahead of Charlie Scardina, and then Mark Bush in the Toyota Supra is in 7th, and a good run from Andrew Jamieson up to 8th overall. But right now, just looking at those first two Ferraris, Carl Tilley ahead of Philippe Cadore, and they are opening out a margin with every single moment. I think, by the way, sadly, I think it was Joe Macari who ended up having a little rotation. Yes, car 178 Ferrari. That was with the Red Bull livery.
Two Ferraris at the front of the field, pulling away up the Camel Straight, and it is slightly uphill all the way.
It's not slightly uphill. You walk it, you'll feel it in your calves. So when people say, here they go down the Camel Straight,
no,
you just want to sort of beat them on the head. That's just me, though.
You know how walking it on your calves or driving up it, even in a fairly rapid road car, it's not easy to pull full revs there, and actually very few people get into top gear. Similarly, actually, heading up to Blanchimont is slightly uphill as well, just dragging the car back a wee bit.
Well, it has to be, because you think about the lowest point on the circuit is down at Curve Paul Frere. Yeah, you'd sense, you could already see from the high shots the cars were slowing down. Mauro Ricci brought the number 30 yellow Ferrari into the pits, unfortunately, so maybe he picked up a bit of damage when Joe Macari went around down at Pouhon. So the safety car is going to pull to the side of the circuit. The medical car is going around, but the point at which the Macari... Oh, no, it's the corner further up. Oh, that is the exit of Pouhon.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe he's got going again. but he's listed as stopped on circuit. The blue Red Bull sponsored Ferrari, SC, and the yellow flags. Marshall's getting the shade as much as they can. It's a long day. Message very clear. If you could hold that yellow flag down a little bit, they could read the SC. But here is the safety car, the Cupra, leading the field round. So the order is Carl Tilley in his Ferrari from Philip Cadori in his pole starting Ferrari, James Thorpe in the better of the Aston Martins, and the black and yellow Momo liveried Mosler, Dennis Bush in 4th place all. David Hart, the third of the Ferraris, in 5th place, and Charlie Scardina in the 4th of the Ferraris in 6th.
If you are enjoying the coverage, please let us know where you are tuning in for. We haven't talked about the classes here. The vast majority of the cars are GT2 C's or B's. There are a couple of A's in there as well, and that invitational Spider-Man car. And it works, yes. Exactly as the point I was going to make. We've got one of the 993 GT2 Evos leading. That's the number 59 Brumos number and coloured car in 13th. Is leading GT2A. GT2B.
7th overall is the Toyota.
Spot. Oh, that is the Toyota,
Mark
yes.
Bush.
Yeah, in the...
just on the right-hand side of your screen, you can see the lime green and blue striped Ferrari, and tucked in behind is the GT2B class leader, the white and red flash Toyota Supra, and he's got the Spider-Man Ferrari, Andrew Jameson, car number 18, tucked in into his wake. But just waiting for... Oh, Joe Macari's car has limped back to the pits, by the way. That's why we couldn't see it when we looked for where it had spun. There is another Red Bull liveried car in the field, but that's a Porsche, and that's down towards the very tail of the field.
Isn't it? Yeah. In fact, just coming across the line now to the left-hand side of the circuit, in behind another white 996 GT2.
So frustration for all concerned, but the good news is the fact that Tamara Ritchie, and the good news is not that his car was in the pits, it has gone back onto the circuit, so he's lost a lap effectively. Joe Macari back in the pits, and who knows, but obviously he would have picked up some damage, having certainly rubbed the barriers on the left-hand side of the track on the exit of Pouhon. But for everyone else, they're waiting for the signal to get going. But just to refresh your memory, as the safety car leads the field around, Carl Tilley leads in its Ferrari F430 GTC from 2008, from the one that's just 2 years younger, Philip Cadori's version, the XT Modena car. Those two red Ferraris going up towards Les Combes. Tucked in behind is James Thorpe in his Aston Martin, then the Mosler of Dennis Bush, and then everyone else. You can choose your livery. What do you like the most in the bright sunshine? Still looking for the yellow and black Corvette to advance a little bit. John Emberson's gained 1 position since the start, but he's down in 10th place overall. For Joe Macari, he's down in the pits explaining to his crew what went on. We didn't see it, we just saw the outcome.
Yeah, I think we'll have a quick word with him, with Von Sott. He's just been talking to Rob Huff as well. It looked, I think, like he got a little tap, and Joe doesn't look too happy. Let's nip down to Von Sott, who's with Joe Macari.
Voiture 178, le pilote s'appelle Joe Macari.
Joe standing by, waiting with Vincent. I've seen Joe look happier, in fairness.
Yeah. In the pits with Joe Macari, unfortunately it's an early retirement. Joe, what's happened?
Totally my fault. Cold tyres, I was doing happy. I made up my position. I was just where I wanted to be, comfortable with the cars in front. I felt I had no problem with the pace. And then basically I ran out of talent. You know, I made a mistake. The back got away from me. I thought, okay, just a small correction, but it just kept going. Next thing I know, I was spinning, and I thought, yeah. So my own fault, and sadly I can only blame myself today. So.
Possible to repair for tomorrow, you think?
Yeah, for sure. It has just a little bit of damage to the rear, by the look of it, the rear wheel, and maybe the wishbone, but it's just a flesh wound. So not the end of the world, but more pissed off with myself than anything else in reality.
Sorry for this, Joe.
Looked like bottom wishbone on the left-hand side, actually. Looped it all the way around and backed it in. Moved the barriers quite a bit, and the worry would have been he bounced out into
traffic.
which He didn't, thank
Well, I'll
goodness.
tell you what, we're just on the restart. The Ferraris got away, but certainly the Aston Martin in third place did not get going as well as it wanted coming out of that final corner, and has been jumped by Dennis Bush in the Black Mosler. Such a tricky corner for a restart. That really tight 110-degree left-hander on the exit of the bus stop chicane. And if you're not absolutely on it, your car's not straight, then it's a place you can just fail to build momentum. So the two Ferraris, as per the first part of the race, Carl Tilley pulling away from Philip Kaduri. Dennis Bush now up into third place, the Black Mosler. James Thorpe tucking in behind, trying to make amends in his V8 Vantage. Great engine note from that. And then comes David Hart in fifth. And the bright green Chrome Racing Ferrari of Charlie Scardina in the background, a change of position because